On May 28th, 2022, I competed at the NCAA Division III Outdoor Track and Field Championships in the pole vault, where I was coached by my brother Peter. That same day, my friend and Wheaton College teammate Kevin competed in the steeplechase. Both Kevin and I ended the day as All-Americans in our last collegiate track and field competition. While we were very happy to end our careers this way, there was one more athletic pursuit we wanted to accomplish before coming to terms with our post-athletic lives, something we had talked about potentially doing since the beginning of that season and even earlier. What I'm referring to is the Decathlon, a grueling 2-day competition that includes 10 separate track and field events, each contributing to an overall point total. So, on the long van ride back from Nationals, our plans began to materialize. 4 days later, on June 1st, Kevin, Peter, myself, and our friend Bobby would start day one of the Paul Elson Jr. Memorial Decathlon, named in honor of my cousin, the school record holder in the deck, who is, despite the name of the event, not dead. So the first event of the day was the 100. Bobby showed up at the track literally 1 minute before the race was scheduled to start, and so didn't get any warm-up, but still somehow managed to edge out Kevin at the line. I half expected to pull my own hamstring after dealing with issues there all year. I didn't really believe that I would be able to make it through both days of the competition until I crossed that finish line. My time was 11:80. Peter came through next at 12:53, Bobby got 13:45, and Kevin had a 13:50. Unfortunately, we don't have any extant footage of the long jump. Bobby hadn't really been training for much of anything coming into that competition, but he kept the trend going of frustrating Kevin in the speed events with a 4.76 as compared to Kevin's jump of 4.22. Peter went 5.04 and I got 5.65. After the long jump, we moved over to Lawson Field for our first throwing event, the shot put. As you can see from this photo, if you know anything about shot put, Bobby did not know anything about shot put. He was very fortunate not to tear his shoulder after trying to throw the 16-pound metal sphere like a baseball. Kevin had a nice opening toss, but he stepped out at the front of the ring, which was a big no-no for our highly official rules enforcement. The only one of the four to attempt the glide technique, I felt pretty good about my throw. Peter also did well with a toss of 9.10, 9.88 for me, 6.81 for Kevin, and 6.62 for Bobby. The high jump was an event that we quickly discovered was very fun, but also very difficult. Kevin and Bobby had had one practice only a couple days before the competition. The two of them both ended up bowing out at the same bar.
Oh, close.
I didn't really know anything about how to do it either. I just imagined I was pole vaulting and tried to be as explosive as possible. As a former middle school high jumper, Peter had the edge and came away with a top jump of 162. I cleared 159. Kevin and Bobby both got over 141. The last event of day one was the 400-meter dash. I was feeling surprisingly good after 4 events, but the 400 transported my body to a world of pain that I had forgotten about the existence of. I was very offended to hear that when asked to guess our finishing order, our coach and former teammate Bree had predicted that I would be last. Despite what some think, pole vaulters do have some speed, and I took the win. Although the All-American steeplechaser did push me on the home stretch and ended up earning his highest score of the day. He came through at 55.54, I hit 54.98, Bobby ran 61.96, and Peter brought up the rear at 64.66. At the end of day one, we were all having a really fun time, but our bodies also felt pretty terrible. The next morning was even worse, which didn't help our confidence going into the hurdles, the one event where we were all most scared of getting a no mark. We had discussed the possibility of using a lower height than the standard 42 inches, but we ultimately felt that if we were going to do a decathlon that we should do it right. I was just hoping to make it through 10 hurdles with a 3-step stride pattern, which I was able to do, as was Peter. Kevin the steepler opted to 4-step, which ended up causing him to cut his strides more than he would have liked, but he made it through. Bobby was fighting for his life to get over those hurdles, but incredibly, he did finish in 27.75 seconds, scoring the hardest earned 3 points in decathlon history. Kevin came through in 21.43, Peter in 19.33, and I in 17.05. Next up was the discus. I think that objectively, the most technically challenging event in track and field would have to be pole vault, but for me, it's discus, hands down. Even without rotating into the throw, it's way more difficult to get the disc to fly at the correct angle with the correct position than you would think. Having to nail it within just 3 throws in competition put the pressure on a bit. In the end though, I think we all got at least one toss that we could be reasonably proud of as novices. Peter took the win here with a throw of 24.50. I was second with 24.01, Bobby was third with 18.61, and Kevin fourth at 17.23. Event 3 of day 2 brought us to the heavily anticipated pole vault. For Kevin, this was an event that he had dreamed of trying out ever since he was a kid, so he was pretty excited to do it. Vaulting after 7 other events was a new experience for me, but I still managed to clear 460, a respectable height by my standards.
That's a make.
Peter had already vaulted unattached at several meets that outdoor season, so he was in decent form and ended up clearing 4 meters. He decided for some reason to compete barefoot, as you can see if you look closely in this video.
Nice jump.
Bobby found a way to do just about everything wrong that could possibly be done wrong in pole vault, but he still managed to worm his way over this bar at 230.
It's a make.
Here's a still shot of that iconic moment. Kevin made a stronger effort to understand the technique of the event, but still came a little short here when attempting to match Bobby's mark. Losing that battle was probably the hardest pill he had to swallow in the whole decathlon. The javelin throw turned out to be the setting for one of the standout performances of the competition. Peter and I had both thrown jav from time to time over the course of many years, and I was really hoping that I would be able to outthrow him. His hope was soon to be definitively thwarted when Peter threw over 10 meters further than he had ever done before. His toss of 41.52 wasn't just good for a washed-up pole vaulter dabbling in javelin. It would have actually been pretty solid for a real D3 level javelin thrower. He later said that he considered this to be the single most surprising athletic accomplishment of his life. My best mark was over 10 meters less at 31.31. Kevin hit 27.94, and Bobby got 23.79. After javelin, the only thing standing between the 4 of us and completing our first and only decathlon was the 1500, which also happens to be the event that most decathletes fear and despise the most. We don't have any footage of the actual race, only what came after. Peter and I had gone out very conservatively, each of us shooting for total scores that would be well within our grasp as long as we didn't crash and burn. Despite our slow times, we still looked like this afterwards. Kevin, on the other hand, was in the shape of his life. He was able to leisurely drop a 4:07.87, lapping both Peter and me in the process. This performance was less than 10 seconds off the official decathlon world record in the 1500, and it resulted in the highest score for any of us in a single event. Bobby, who had made the questionable decision of trying to go out with Kevin, still managed to crawl in ahead of us at 5:18.02. I came through at 5:41.20, and Peter at 5:48.58. So there you have it, the story of how 4 mostly retired track and field athletes took it upon themselves to complete a decathlon for no other reason except that we wanted to. As brutal as it was honestly one of the most fun experiences of my life, and I couldn't have asked for a better crew for it. Thanks to everyone who came out to help run the events and cheer us on. It was a truly unforgettable experience. Final scores, 51.59 for me, 42.76 for Peter, 36.37 for Kevin, and 28.10 for Bobby.